Imam Malik, and everybody knows who's Imam Malik, one of the greatest of the scholars in the history of Islam. And he was the Imam for Medina. And he used to say, and they used to consider, that if anybody would give tafsir of the Quran without knowledge, just make it up from themselves, this was enough to consider them not Muslim. Not a Muslim. So it isn't acceptable for, like we have some of these people today who say, oh, you know, today we know this, we know that, and they will give a meaning to the Quran based on words, based on logic, based on philosophy, based on some secular thinking. This is enough, according to the Maliki fiqh, that they're not even Muslim. So this is not a lightweight subject. It's very important. The rule in the Quran, when you have the knowledge in Quran, you know that the first rule is Quran is understood by Quran. That's the first rule. So you cannot even call somebody a scholar of Quran if he hasn't memorized it yet. That's one of the first things. And I'm going to ask you here in our gathering today, is there anybody in our room with us that's memorized the whole Quran? Anybody? Please raise your hand. Anybody? Huh? You don't know how to raise your hand? Okay, that's what I need to know. Because this would have been the first gathering I've ever been in where we didn't have anybody memorize the Quran. Now, you have the whole Quran, yes? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now I'm going to ask you, how many in this room are memorizing the Quran? No, you don't understand any English, are you? How many in this room have memorized something of Quran and you wish you were memorizing more? There we go. You may not understand what the question or the value of the question. There's no other religion on earth. Listen to this. There are hundreds and hundreds of religions. There's no other religion on earth where all the people in the religion are memorizing the scriptures in the original language. It isn't. Every single Muslim at least knows some of the Quran in the original language. Nobody else can say that. No other religion can claim that. They go crazy when I bring this up. They lose their mind. They don't believe me. But have you ever met a Muslim that didn't know how to say Bismillah? And that's the first words in the Quran, isn't it? You ever meet a Muslim that can't say Salam Alaikum? Or Alhamdulillah or Allahu Akbar? In fact, not only do we know these words, a lot of the non-Muslims know these words, right? But I venture to guess that some of the words that I happen to know from the Bible, that are from the original language, if I said it to them and it's their book, they don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And by the way, we have some of the same words that they have. I want to come back. I'm trying to put a big emphasis, if you haven't figured it out, on knowing what we have. Because if you really understand what is da'wah, part of the da'wah is to know what it is. Got me? All right. Ma'ruf and munkar. Let's go to that real quick. Ma'ruf. There's a hadith which says, the meaning of it in English, if you see something, I'm not going to give you the word. You see something, you have to change it by your hands. And if you can't do that, you change it by your tongue. And if you can't do that, you hate it with all your heart. And that's the weakest of Iman. What was the word? What is it you have to change? Who can tell me? Sammy, tell us what the word is.
Even.
Huh?
Even.
No, in Arabic.
Munkar.
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 Yeah. In this ayah, we have that word munkar. But what is the word ma'ruf? Well, the Sheikh told us that in this case, this does not mean call people to good and forbid evil. The exact translation that everybody always gives, and the Sheikh said it doesn't mean that. He said it, and we're like, huh? He said, no, it's not just good and just evil. He said it is the good that specifically applies to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Is to call to that, to not call to it, in this case, because it doesn't say Dawaa. It says Amr. And this is ordering the people to this. Because you're telling the people about La ilaha illallah. You're actually ordering people to listen to this subject, to pay attention to what is La ilaha illallah and what it stands for. Make sense? And the other side of it, the munkar here, is not just evil, it's the evil that takes people out of Islam. The evil that takes people away from Allah. The evil that takes us away from the deen itself. That's why, Sheikh said, that is why, and it's the only possibility here, because if you're not willing to call people to Allah, and you're not willing to forbid what takes people away from Allah, how can you say you believe in Allah? Make sense? So this is perhaps a good way to understand the value of the verse that was read to us. It's not lightweight, it's very heavy. Now, how do we go about doing this? Well, first of all, is to understand what is Islam. And this is, we don't have time for that tonight. In fact, we don't have time in a week or a month to cover all of the facets of Islam. But let me just give you a couple of points. Islam is the description of a relationship between two entities. Islam describes how you are with Allah, because it contains 5 things in it in English: surrender, submission, obedience, sincerity, and peace. All 5. If you don't have these 5, you're missing part of your Islam. And because it's a word that indicates this kind of submission and this kind of obedience, it means there has to be 2 entities. There can't be one. Because like running, walking, talking, things like this could be one. But when you describe this condition, a relationship between 2, you need 2 entities. And one is the master of the other, and the other one's the servant of the other one. Got it? That's what Islam means. Islam indicates that there's a master and a slave instantly. One is doing the bidding of the other one. One is doing the will of the other one. So that's why it's the perfect word to describe exactly Muslims and Allah. What's the relationship, what it should be. And now go back and look at the verse in Surah Ma'idah when Allah says, Al-yawmul akmaltu lakum dinakum wa admamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum Islam ad-dina. He said, on this day have I perfected for you your deen, your way of life. Conferred my biggest favor, ni'mah, na'im, on you. And chose for you, and He's giving you the exact word that I just told you, to do aslama. He chose for you to be in surrender, submission, and obedience to Him. And it doesn't give you the name of a religion. It tells you the verb of the description of how your relationship should be with your Lord. Because if you just said Islam, and you just mean it as a noun, then what happens, the detractors of Islam will say, why is it only you guys think you're going to paradise? How come you have this exclusive religion called Islam? Huh? And what about all the people before Islam? You saying they're going to go to hell? We're not the ones with that problem, by the way. we don't have that problem because we know that this was the condition, the relationship as described by all of the prophets all the way back to Adam. Adam, Abraham, Moses, David, Suleiman, Jesus. Peace and blessings be upon all of them. They were saying the same thing. You better do what God wants you to do. And you better do it on His terms when He wants you to do it. That's why they're not called the 10 suggestions. They're the 10 commandments. Allowed commands and you do it. The relationship is what? Master-slave. Well, this gets kind of cool when you think about it. Because you're going to come to America, United States of America, and tell everybody here, hey, who wants to be a slave? That should be real popular with the African American brothers, right? We'll go to them and say, hey, you like to be a slave? Hey, sure, my what? Because they suffered under slavery, but the slavery that the people suffered under here is definitely not what Allah is talking about. They can't imagine in our country, because slavery has been such a subject for so long, we can't really imagine the beauty of the slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a beautiful thing. First of all, it is a voluntary servitude. Allah does not whip you and beat you and mistreat you to get you to be in a religion He wants you to be in. That's not how it is at all. You have to want to, because that's the only way you can get into Islam. You cannot get into Islam any other way. It has to be from your choice. It has to be from your own choosing. It has to be from you. You got to say, oh Allah, I want to be in this deen. Allah, I want to be guided. You have to, because He puts no pressure on you. Zero. And that's the meaning, inshallah, Allah alam, la ikraha fid deen. There's no compulsion in this way of life. That's why Islam could never be spread with the sword, not the real Islam. Yeah, you could go in with a sword and tell people to say stuff, and they'll say it to pay you money, and they'll pay it, but you're not really spreading Islam. You know? You're spreading something else. So anytime you see people out here swinging swords and blowing up stuff and trying to take over things like this, then behind that is what? What's the motivation behind it? No, there is a difference though. And I'll go back to the verse that I told you about. Whenever there is the condition that people are not allowing the message to get out, or they're stopping the message or stopping the people from following the message, that's when the Muslims have to stand up and fight. They have to. They have to, because it is a commandment. This is a commandment of Muslims, that whenever we have this problem, we have to tell the people, look, you can join us as a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. We can do that, no problem. Or we can live together peacefully. We have that option. And you can continue as what you have, we continue what we have. But if we can't do that, we fight. That's how it is. And that's how it's been for 1400 years, and that's how it will be till the day of judgment. As long as there's a Muslim on this earth, that's how it has to be. Because that's the ayah. That's what we understand, and that's what we will do. But we're not aggressive. We're not going out trying to convert people. That's not the point. But we must be allowed to do Islam, which is to be a slave to the Almighty. And this is what the prophets called for. Now there's a lot of misunderstanding amongst the Christians, Jews, and Muslims as to what Islam really is. And unfortunately, we have a lot of our youth who are getting the wrong ideas and doing the wrong things. And that's very sad. So it's our responsibility, of course, to start at home and explain what Islam really is. One of the things Islam, I already told you, is a way of life, but Islam is also balance. It's a clear balance. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that it's the middle road, it's the middle path.